synchronized hum of a dozen charging Teslas. Welcome to Hungary. It all started with this video that I uploaded about the second ever Tesla location, which is supposed to be a showroom and a service center, but actually there was nothing there apart from one employee who informed me that the manager of the store isn't there at the moment. But I managed to get a hold of the manager and I found out that there is going to be a second location. That one is a temporary one. And then I asked if I could have a new Model Y for a test weekend. And so here we are. It's a Model Y dual motor long range, which we are a few minutes away from charging to 100% in one of only 10 supercharging locations in our country, which I think we'll talk about at the conclusions when we draw them. We'll start from 100% for two reasons. One, we don't have a charger at home. And a second reason is I want to see and then calculate how much sort of range we have realistically with highway driving, because in the city, we got this last night, and I can sort of see that you can drive around 300, even more miles in city driving and sort of extra urban driving as well. The question really is for longer trips, because that's really the only convenience that you'll have. What sort of range can you expect from one of these dual motor, long range, larger battery, 75 kilowatt hour net capacity Model Ys? I know they are very efficient. I've watched YouTube videos myself, but this will actually be at 81, 82 miles an hour. I'll try and report back to you, but worst case scenario, I'll sum up at the end. I hope you'll stay around. And I just want to shout out Tesla Hungary for giving us this wonderful, beautiful car. So it's day 2 now. The reason why you didn't see anything from day 1 is because even though we started off well with the 70 mile an hour ringway, shortly after, as soon as we entered the proper M3 highway, which would have been the more valuable 82 mile an hour section, we were facing some difficulties because of an accident. So the GPS took us in a completely different direction, took us off the highway, and so we were driving across cities, which is awesome, but it gave us an end of day unrealistic range, even though on the way back we were able to drive 82 miles an hour of 158.5 watt hours per kilometer, which would give us 100% range of roughly, if I calculate right, 473 kilometers. It did say 488, I think, when we set off, so it did adjust a little bit, but it did give us maybe 80%, 375 kilometers. Not bad, actually, but I think it's unrealistic. And so I'm doing something a little bit different today. Ironically, the biggest oil refinery of the country is just over there across that intersection there. But let's get in the car and I'll tell you a little bit more. I've marked a point on the map, which is exactly 25 kilometers from here, which gives us 50 kilometers in reverse. So if we do both ways, and I'm going to do 3 separate speeds because this is a 130 kilometer an hour highway. I'm going to do 130 first, just to get the large amount of consumption out of the way, and then I'm going to do 120, and then at the end 110, just because I don't have a charger at home, so if I have to rush to a supercharger, I'd rather be safe. So yeah, that will give us 50 kilometers in all 3 speeds, because that's really what I'm interested in. Is it worth driving 130 and then do short superchargers when you're doing a road trip, or is it worth going 120 because you save a lot of energy that way? Let's see how it goes. Let's start out with 130. Okie doke. So I've put a separate little trip card here, 130 kilometer an hour test. We're going to reset this. We are currently at 81%, and it's showing us 395 kilometers, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to be focusing on the trips themselves. So, okay, well, here we go. It says 25 kilometers from here, 15 minutes over there, and then 15 minutes back. So let's get started. Okie doke.
Now enter the roundabout and take the 4th exit.
So we're just about to enter the highway straight into 130 or 82 or 81 miles per hour, 20-inch wheels. So do keep that in mind. You could get more range out of one of these if you wanted to drive on smaller tires as well as you can get now the long range single motor variant of this, which does have the larger 75 kilowatt hour battery, but it does have just one rear engine. So it's interesting because one of the British YouTubers, I believe, Just Get a Tesla, shout out to them, really good channel, did actually upload a video where if you watched, and you'd know that the front motor isn't really being used on a trip like this. So you're just carrying around that extra weight. So it totally makes sense. If you are not looking for something super adrenaline heavy, or if you don't live in a climate where the weather requires you to have all-wheel drive, then just stick to that version. Long range, rear wheel only. This section of the motorway, this is the M6 motorway in Hungary. First of all, it's the least busy motorway, or highway, whatever we want to call it, which is good because it's unlikely that we'll see any accidents or construction sites or whatever maintenance that they're doing. And the elevation is equal amounts up and down, so you get fairly consistent results on this short 25 kilometer journey. The first impressions in just driving it around the city, the consumption is ridiculous. It's something like 110 to 120 watt hours per kilometer. So in theory, on a full charge, you could actually drive this 600 or so kilometers just in the city. Of course, not calculating for any drain during the night. But the question really isn't about city driving. I think it's more about whether this is something that you can easily take on a longer journey and either rely on the supercharger network, which is very poor in this neck of the woods, I can tell you that. Out of the 10 locations that I mentioned in the beginning, 2 of them are 125 kilowatts, so there's even that on top of the fact that some major cities in the country don't have. If I continued an hour and a half this way, there's one of the most popular cities in Hungary which doesn't have a supercharger. It was supposed to be built, I think, a year ago. Still no sign of when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. It's a major university town, it's rich in culture, and it has a fairly large population, but really the supercharger network, I don't think it's enough for the country. And so you're going to be reliant on third-party solutions where it gets a little bit more uncomfortable. If you have to use separate apps for each of them, not all of them have a payment terminal. In fact, most of the ones I see, they don't have it installed yet. So the question is, you need to have a realistic idea of what range can you get out of these in order to plan your journey better. And of course, the onboard computer does do a fairly good job of it, but sometimes it does produce results that you just don't feel like stopping 2 or 3 times on a 4-hour drive, even if it's only 6 minutes or 9 minutes or whatever. But all right, 10 kilometers, just under 10 kilometers left. So far, going nearly 130 as I mentioned, is just over 201 and a half, I would say, 201.6 at this point, watt hours per kilometer. Really, there's 2 ways I look at it. One, how much can you go on 100% charge? If you have like a 300-mile journey, 450, 480 kilometers journey, can you do it if you just charge to 100% at home? And then the second question is, if you are doing a longer road trip over 1,000, maybe even 2,000 miles / 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers, let's say, how uncomfortable does it get to just use the recommended 80 to 85% charge? Because after that, it really slows down. I've done like 2 supercharges yesterday, and I charged them to 100%. I mean, yeah, as they say, it is longer, of course, to charge between 80 to 100 than it is from anything up to 80, pretty much. So 201 and a half, it's sticking to that really, even though we just went uphill. It's beautifully holding itself within the lanes. Enhanced Autopilot is a joy to use. What's really strange is the lane change. And I'm not sure, but maybe this camera here going to show you. So I'm going to indicate. And for somebody who doesn't use Tesla, you have to, it says apply force to steering wheel. But then sometimes it freaks out and just lets go of the whole thing because it thinks I put too much pressure on it. But let's try that again. So it says, it doesn't say anything now. But now it freaked out. Okay, let's go back to speed. All right, coming up to the first half of this 130 kilometer testing. So that was 25 kilometers. And it's gonna be a little bit less because the point that I could enter into the system is technically a sort of industrial estate. So I don't think we can enter that, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back and then at the end we'll see how much that is exactly. So it's gonna be a little bit less than 50 kilometers. All right, back to autopilot. Now you can't see it, but just to the right is one of the largest South Korean battery manufacturing plants here in Hungary. SK is what it's called. And it just shows you how European markets are struggling because this was one of the largest projects, and I've seen some of the warehousing and container solutions that they have. They have a fully autonomous 5G based container system, shipping containers, and like they've invested a lot of money into this, and then they had to send hundreds of people away each month because there are not enough orders. So I don't know how it is where you live, but here electric cars are something of a frowned upon topic. But I still believe in them for some reason, mostly because I'm very much enjoying driving these Teslas. So let's hope that the future is a little bit brighter in the coming years. So this particular car is Tesla's own vehicle, so it has all the bells and whistles added onto it, including the full self-driving package, which is completely unnecessary here in Europe because it hasn't passed through the governing bodies, and unfortunately I don't think we will see it in a few months. Maybe it's a question of a few years, but it's to a pretty ridiculous point. And maybe after we do this test, if I have some time, I'll show you what happens when you try to use even functions like smart summon. It's completely limited. But yeah, right now we are the sort of part of the world where innovation doesn't thrive. It's just fully regulated. Okay, so let's see where we are right now. Around 2/3 of the way of this 130 kilometer an hour test, as I'm going to now try and, this time it accepted it. It changed lanes, yay. 2/3 of the way there, 191 watt hours per kilometer, which is excellent. It's below that 21 that I was sort of calculating with, even with pretty strong headwind from what I can hear and sense in the car's movements. So good so far, very impressive. I mean, that gives you 300 kilometers of continuous driving if you calculate between 5% arrival, 85% departure from a charger. All right, 3/4 of the way there. Still pushing 193, maybe 194, but we did just climb up that hill that we talked about on the way here. So far, very impressed. Very stable, enhanced autopilot doing its job. If you want to be adventurous, tell me in the comments below what you think about enhanced autopilot being a paid extra. Because technically that's level 2+, and a lot of other manufacturers, for instance, the Kia Hyundai group, Mercedes-Benz, I know that they offer pretty much the same functionality. And I'm sure they bundle it in some sort of package, but it's just weird to see that Tesla, being that sort of forefront of innovation, they ask, what is it, $3,000 or so? I looked at the Hungarian website, it's 1.4 million forints, so it would be around 3.5. Yeah, that's a bit, it's a bit tough. Go a little bit slower until we go back to the starting point, but 191, 192. Okay, and then I'm gonna reset the cameras and then we start again. All right, 120 kilometers an hour. We're gonna do the same thing, roll back out to the highway, and then I'll get back to you when we are up to speed. Okay, re-entering the highway, up to 120. Good. Wow, that was terrifying. It was a massive side wind, and the Ford Transit Tour in front of me, I thought it was trying to avoid, like swerve to not hit something before, but it just almost hit the other lane. I'd love to know a little bit more about you, the person watching this, because YouTube tells me that the majority of my audience is from the United States and Canada, and then the UK. I guess it's not that surprising. But if you are from any of those or other countries, do me a favor, just put that country down below, as well as maybe in a sentence or so, let us know what electric cars are like in your country. Because in this part of Europe, it's a harder and harder sale for every car manufacturer as well as retailer here in the country. I do speak to a vast array of these companies through my work, but yeah, it's becoming more and more difficult, and they're ordering less and less, and they're struggling to sell the existing stock that they have. But I'd still like to believe that that's subject to change, so let me know. The first generation Model Y and even the facelift ones, I mean, I know it took the crown here in Europe and then later on in the world as well as the most sold car. I just didn't see it. The build quality certainly wasn't there. Every time I get in one of those generation Model 3s or Model Ys, I hate the wooden trim that goes across the dash. It rattles, it squeaks. Not all of them, of course. The later ones were better, and then the additional heat pump also helps in, especially in the winter. So, of course, massive improvements led to what we are sitting in now, but I just don't see it. But this one, I have absolutely no doubt that this will be the most sold car in Europe. Just yesterday at the Supercharger, there were already 15, 20 of these on Hungarian license plates. Just shows you sort of how well this is selling despite what I just described a minute ago. So the exterior styling of this car, in my opinion, they just nailed it. I really like the light bar on the front, which is, unlike some other manufacturers, this one blends in with the other two side daytime running lights. And they don't show any discoloration between the two. If you look at some of the earlier Mercedes Benz and the Volkswagen group, when they started implementing front light bars, they were different LEDs from the daytime running lights. It just looked really bad from a design perspective, from a consistency perspective. But Tesla nailed this one, I think. It gives it that sort of Cybertruck look that everybody's talking about, but without it being obnoxious. And then, as I mentioned, they moved the full lights down below. They are matrix LEDs, which if I get time tonight, I'll go out and film it for you. It is working. It's very active. It's not as stable, in my opinion, as the German counterparts, which I have the privilege of driving as part of our company's fleet. I know that those matrix LEDs, they are really consistent. Whereas with the Tesla one, it's very fast to react, but it does also sometimes leave little blotches here and there. And I had one or two people flash at me the first night. Yesterday, no one. So I'll go out tonight, and if I get to film it, then I'll show you what it's like. Maybe put one of the cameras a little bit closer to the windshield or even on the outside of the car. All right, 15 kilometers in from the total of 50. and it's showing us pretty consistently from the beginning 186 watt hours per kilometer. So not bad actually, but surprisingly little difference compared to 130. So the rear end of the Tesla with the indirect light bar is exactly that sort of different mindset that they have when it comes to everything. The mechanics, the design, the presentation, the marketing. It's exactly what I sort of expected. Just have a little bit of an unorthodox take on incorporating the light bar. Very distinct, very recognizable, yet a very unorthodox take on something that has to be there. So yeah, 20 kilometers in, almost 21 at this point. Yeah, 177. So we just climbed that hill and now we're going downhill, and so is the consumption. Tesla Vision very accurately recognizing the motorbike that's passing us on the left from the country of Czechia. Two dudes just on their merry way. We're about to exit the highway, turn around and go back the other direction. So far 171, 172 watt hours per kilometer. Up to 120. Whoa, I did not like that. Steered me right back into the emerging lane. That was not nice. All right, roughly 2/3 in of the 120 kilometer leg of this test. And it's still pretty consistently showing 177 at this point. We just climbed uphill quite a lot. And so we're gonna be descending, but yeah, 177 and a half. That's not bad. Tells you all about Tesla's design for this vehicle, is that every time a car passes me with kids in the back, they're just staring down this car. And I'm not sure how visible that Sony camera is over there, but I don't think it's that visible as you pass alongside me. So I think they're checking out the car for sure. All right, 40 kilometers into the 120 tests, and consistently still 176. We just descended, we're just gonna climb back again. So compared to the 192 as we exited the highway with the 130 test, this 177 is fairly consistent. I mean, it's not that much of a difference on a short run like this, but I'll let you decide whether that's worth sustaining over a long drive. Okay, we're about to exit the highway. So this was 192 as we exited before, and it's up to 180 here. So from my perspective, 12 watt hours per kilometer between the two speeds. All right, let me reset the cameras and then we'll be rolling in a minute again. Let's hit the road. Let's not waste any time. And then I'll get back to you when we're up to speed. Okie doke, 110 kilometers an hour, here we go. Up to speed. Set. Let it regulate, and that's it. All right, shall we try the lane change again? Indicate. And it does it. Beautiful. Now I'm gonna have to take over this tanker over here. Told you, 80% of the country's gasoline and diesel is made in that refinery where we turn around. So this is sort of a symbolic beginning and end or turnaround point, because we started the oil refinery and we turned around at the largest battery manufacturing plant in the country. That's for some reason not booming, and the oil is just going in and out faster than we can speak. Draw your conclusions. Just passed us, Suzuki Vitara, the most sold car for many years before the Model Y turned them into silver medal owners. But I think for internal combustion engines, it's this car that's outselling everything else for the Hungarian consumers. For company fleets, the Toyota Corolla, which is the car I actually own, is the most popular car. But overall, in Europe, as well as in the world, this particular car is the highest selling vehicle on the market. I think for many people, when they think about buying one of these cars, it's really a no-brainer if they have the means to charge it. For us as a family, we're in a situation where we have 4 or 5 Toyotas in the family, and they're all hybrids. And the situation is, we don't have anywhere to charge it, not all of us. And those cars are so reliable. Of course, they come with a mandatory service period. It is what it is. So you are sort of looped into having to spend some money every 15,000 kilometers or around 9,000 miles. But apart from the oil changes and the filters and a few mandatory items, we're not spending any money on these cars. They're reliable, they're good, and they're very convenient in the sense that it takes a few minutes to fill up with gasoline, and then you go and drive at least 450 miles, 700 kilometers on all of our cars, if not more. You can drive even more. Some of us that live in a city, then of course we can get even more range. We don't need to be driving on highways. So we're coming from convenience to a different type of convenience, and they both have a bit of a negative side to them as well. I mean, nobody's going to argue they're bland and boring cars, those Toyota hybrids. These are exciting, but do I want to think about charging and spending an hour and a half to 2 hours extra on a long 1,000-kilometer journey? Not at all. I don't want to do that. But in return, they make it as comfortable and convenient as possible. So the infrastructure is there in some countries, and it's not in some others. But just yesterday, as we were driving to the top of the country, I was thinking, I'm pretty much equidistant from 2 superchargers, and none of them are convenient if I had less battery at this point. So, you know, it was good. It was a good choice to charge to 100%. 10 kilometers in, 175 watt hours per kilometer, which is interesting because at this point, 120 was saying exactly the same. So we'll see how it is afterwards. We did just climb to the top of this first hill, and now we're descending. So, all right, we're just passing the battery plant kilometer out from the highway exit, and now the Pocket 3 is back in operation. Should be all good. It just needed a minute to cool down. It's all good. It is the hottest day of the year so far, I believe. As well as, don't forget, we've got a huge panoramic sunroof. And so it's mounted directly up there, and it's recording in 4K. So understandable that after an hour or so, it just said, I had enough. It's okay. We're all feeling it. So what's the situation halfway through? 148 watt hours. Okay. I mean, I'm not surprised. If you live in the UK and the top speed you can go is roughly this, 70 miles an hour, just a little under 70 miles an hour. If you charge up to 85% and you get to your next charger at 5%, so you use 60 kilowatt hour, right? If you use 3/4 of your battery, so 75%, 80%, then yeah, you can go 250 miles, 400 kilometers in mainland terms. That's not bad between charges. All right, back up to 110, and then we're 18 minutes out from finishing this test as well. So the improvements compared to the previous generation with the acoustic glass all around are phenomenal. I mean, today is a very windy day, and the only thing I hear is the wind noise, a little bit of tire noise. These are on the 20-inch Michelin, I believe, Pilot Sport EVs. And if I were to buy one, I'd buy the 19-inch because I just want maximum range. Really doesn't look that bad at all. There's not that much of a difference between 19s and 20s. Yeah, I mean, the sunroof here has been tinted, factory tinted, and it does help compared to the Model 3 that my in-laws own, and certainly in Spanish summer you feel the heat. And I am bald, so of course you feel the heat a little bit more than the others, but it does help that it's factory tinted. You still feel the warmth on a day like this, 38 degrees, but it's not bad at all. The materials, much improved. This is a Berlin, Germany manufactured vehicle. I think the Model 3 Highland that is manufactured in Shanghai, in China, is still a little bit better. There is a weird rattling sound here. Something plastic is vibrating, but only every few hours. And then I press a little bit here. Maybe it's the heat that's causing the plastic to misbehave a little bit, but there are little things here and there that just tell you that maybe the Shanghai plant is doing a little bit better. But of course, I've only long driven one of these Model Ys, so as long as you can get these little things fixed, it's not an issue. That's what your warranty is for. Steering wheel is a traditional steering wheel, so they sort of let go of their aspirations to have the yoke on more vehicles. Makes sense considering this one doesn't have a steer-by-wire system, so it's better to have one of these traditional wheels. It's very comfortable. I really like the material on it as well. It's not overly rubbery like the previous generation. It felt like, you know, like a fake movie prop steering wheel. They removed the indicators and put them back on the stock, and I'll be honest with you, I was thinking, you know what, I like the one on the Model 3 that it was a button, but actually living with it now for the past 2-3 days, yeah, thank God they put it back. It's really nice to have here. It doesn't fully click in and only indicates as long as it wants to because of the camera system noticing that you're exiting a roundabout or swapping lanes or whatever, but that's how it should work in a system where it aims to be fully autonomous within a few years. So very good choice that they put it back there. As a dedicated camera button, so I can look at my cameras front and rear, and of course there's that new front camera which also has a washer, so I can wash it if it gets dirty, which makes sense. There's no washer on the rear though, and that also sometimes gets dirty, so no issues. Not the end of the world, as I can see somebody approaching me there. They put a blind spot monitor, sort of red amber light into the speakers here on the door, and that's also nice. But also when you indicate and there's somebody in your blind spot, it's gonna let you know with an audible chime if you let it, or with the red sort of corner there as you indicate and the camera image comes up. There's no display in front of you like in the Model S and Model X, but to be honest with you, I don't mind. My first car only had a center display. It was a Citroen C4, for those of you wondering. If you don't know what that is, before Bugatti invented that wheel with the middle staying in position, Citroen did that 20 years ago. So it's a very quirky French car, and it only had one display up there in the middle, just underneath the windshield. So I don't mind it at all. This 15-inch display here is perfectly capable of showing me everything. 2/3 for whatever setting or map that you're using, and 1/3 over here for your driver assistance and your speed and your automatic controls. So very good. More than happy with it. 2 wireless chargers, I believe, capable of 15 or 30 watt wireless charging. Not the Chinese 50-watt wireless charging that a lot of people want, but to be honest with you, your phone already gets super hot from these wireless chargers, so 15 watts should at least sustain it, if not charge it slowly. That's better for your battery, so it doesn't matter. For me, I think it's more than enough, as long as the next generation will get maybe a little bit of cooling As long as it doesn't take too much energy away, then we should definitely have one of those. 3/4 of the way there pretty much with the 110, and we're still 158 watt-hours per kilometer, so not bad at all. Is it worth going 110 though? I don't know. I would probably lose my mind if I had to go 110. That middle ground seems the most attractive to me. It's not the end of the world, but there's only one USB-C port here, so if you have any accessory that you want to use and run it by USB-C, right now I'm doing that. I'm powering these cameras so I have enough battery to film something later on. But there's 2 of them in the back, so it's okay. I believe they're 65 watts, but they power share between the front and the back, so once you start using 2 or 3, then just calculate with that as well. But if you only use one, 65 watts should charge a mid-sized MacBook as well. So for me, not a deal breaker, but some people have said that they would love to have a 110 in the US or 220, 230, 240 volt outlet somewhere in the car, like some of the other competitors they have. To me, not the end of the world. I do like Kia's reverse adapter, so you can actually plug something in to the exterior of the car, so the charge port, and there's also an outlet on the inside of the car. Some of them have more than one. Could be useful. It wouldn't hurt to have it, but most of the stuff I want to use in the car just require USB-C, so quite convenient. All right, we're 5 kilometers out from the highway exit. Still going 159, just under 160 watt-hours per kilometer. So we're still going uphill technically, even though it doesn't really seem like it, because it's up to 165 now as we exit the highway. 165.4 is the number. Not bad. Not bad at all. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna reset and I'm gonna go to the next town over, which is like 5-6 minutes, going 90, because that's a 90 kilometer an hour road anyway. And so we'll have 4 speeds to sort of analyze and think of when it comes to outside of city driving. Let me reset the cameras. Pocket 3 still alive. I'll be right back. So this is just a 2-lane road between the 2 cities. And you're allowed to go up to 90 kilometers, so around 56 miles per hour. There's that oil refinery over there. We're driving alongside it. You can see how huge this refinery is. It's pretty crazy. Okie doke. So far, it's just a few kilometers, but 154, and it's going down. That's when we're entering the city, and so we're forced to let go of 90 kilometers an hour. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn around here. I know in the hybrid Toyotas, there's no question. The 110 versus 90, you'll definitely be consuming less going 90. 110 isn't bad either, but anything north of 120, they're quite inefficient. It's just not what that engine was made for. But in this case, between 90 and 110, there's really not that much difference. This is quite a short distance to test it, but I don't think it's that particularly different. Okay, we're going past the origin point. 155 is what we got at the end. Quite a short test, just over 10 kilometers, so take that with a pinch of salt. We'll say bye-bye to the oil refinery. And this guy very nicely signaling to me that there are police officers checking speed limits here. Tesla says no to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I don't mind. It has all the functions that I need, apart from one, which is exactly this. There's a lot of ad hoc speed measurements, and whether you want to or not, sometimes you get caught off guard. Hasn't happened to me, thankfully. If you're superstitious, you know what I just did. But it would be nice to know of redirections, accidents, whatever it is. Static speed cameras are present in Tesla's own maps, but there's no community effort, which shocks me when it comes to Tesla, because it's such a strong community amongst each other. And I know that it's possible. They could do it. They could make it even better than what we have right now, but for some reason we just don't have that Waze functionality. I wasn't even close. Apart from this, I don't need anything else. We've got Apple Podcast here, YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Netflix, Disney, etc., etc. So, really, what else is needed for just simply being a car, right? And yes, the police officers were literally just after that stretch of road there, So, as we're finishing up here, pulling into this big parking lot for a supermarket here, a gas station. And I thought, why not finish this lovely little test we had by letting the car park itself next to someone else. Okay, ready? So you slow down, you slow way down. Of course, many cars can park in empty spots, but this one doesn't have any issues parking right next to a car. Good. Not doing anything, just to assure you. It's correcting itself, it's straightening out. Didn't get scared by pedestrians, I mean. Finished. That's it, easy peasy. If you're not good with parking, then I'm pretty sure you're gonna appreciate this feature. I think that's it. 4 different tests. I'll tally up the numbers and then I'll let you know what I think. Welcome to the trunk test. Before you think this is a bit absurd, this is literally what, as a 3/4 member party we travel with, depending on whether the mother-in-law comes with us. But twice a year we like to go on car holiday, and so that's pretty much what you see here. You see 2 large suitcases, a 67 and a 79 centimeter large suitcase, and 3 small ones, 2 camera bags, 2 drones, a bunch of accessories, and 2 stands. So now you understand why I drive an estate or a station wagon, as you know, because all of this fits and I can still pull the cargo cover. I have a sub trunk in my car, as well as some space for a spare wheel, which I don't carry. I have a kit in case anything goes wrong. But yeah, all of this needs to fit in the car in order for me to even consider it. So let's see what an empty trunk looks like, and we'll take the measuring tape out. All right. First good thing is this now has a separate compartment, and so if we take this out, we can actually drop it right below here, and so it goes back flat, which is really nice. All right, let's see some dimensions. Length. We're talking, and the good thing is this actually shows you in feet as well. So pretty much till the end here, that's 108 centimeters, pretty much, which would be 3 foot and a bit. That would be 42 inches and a bit, 43 inches. Width at the widest point, 146 centimeters. So let's have a look, just under 5 feet. Most narrow point, and that's going to be a crucial one, is 88, pretty much. In terms of height, I think that's where we will measure it. Without taking out the sub-compartment, we're looking at 42 centimeters. So that's where it needs to close. Even though it's a hatchback style opening, you've got 42 centimeters to play with. So the sub trunk comes now with a separate compartment for the cargo cover. But here's what my plan is. I'm going to start loading things in. I think I can fit my photography stuff in the sub trunk, and then the rest should be able to go in here because it's a little bit smaller than my Toyota. But yeah, let's see how we get on. Let's see. These side pockets can absorb a camera bag pretty much, not the larger one, but the smaller one can absorb the Mavic 3 Pro with its carry case. Very nice so far. If I turn that to the side, good. One large 79 centimeter tourist there, a 67, will it fit? Oh yeah, not too bad, huh? Tell you what, that's not bad at all, because Teslas have a frunk. We've got one suitcase left, which I could somehow squeeze in there if I really wanted to, but the question is, does it fit here? Shit, it does. Pretty much the usable space, 78 wide, centimeters we're talking, of course, 39 across. I mean, wow. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I mean, this trunk now supports summer activities because it does have a drain. The bad news is, now with all that stuff, we will have no more excuses about doing shopping on our holidays. So we have all that extra space. So as usual, I've got my notes here, and I had several more hours of driving. Now we're at the end of the day and it's still 36 degrees, so very hot day. I've got my notes as usual here, so I'm gonna be reading some of these because I've got so many things that I wanted to mention, but I'll just quickly go through them and hopefully be able to show you with some B-roll as well. So in the city, 120, 130 watt hours per kilometer. You can really drive almost 600 kilometers, like 370 miles really in the city at any point with this given car. But that's not really the point. Let's look at the numbers going up from 90 kilometers an hour, which I found around 155 watt hours per kilometer. But that isn't really something that I was looking forward to measuring anyway. But if we go through the 110, which was 165, 120 kilometers an hour, so 75 miles an hour, I found it to be around 180 watt hours per kilometer, and 130 kilometers an hour is the sort of magic number that we were looking for highway speeds in mainland Europe. That's 192 watt hours per kilometer. So in reality, I would say if we look at these numbers on an 80% charge, so if you charge up to 85% on a supercharger and you go down, you arrive with around 5%, which is sort of the ideal, in my opinion, that you worth sacrificing your time for, as well as you leave some margin if you are an experienced EV driver, and if you have good enough coverage, then I'd say you can drive pretty much on an 80% charge around 370-ish kilometers before you have to really consider a stop as soon as possible. So that's not bad at all. I mean, that's realistically looking 3 hours of driving. So after that, you pull over for 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of charging, depending on how busy the charger is, what sort of charger you find. Not bad, right? I'd say if you can go 120, especially on longer trips, 8-10 hour trips, I mean, that 10 kilometers an hour isn't worth the extra energy that you burn and isn't worth the extra concentration that it requires. So I'd personally just go with 120 because there's only one or two people that I saw that constantly measured these type of speeds, and I wanted to go and have a go at it myself as well. But some of those handicaps here in the European Union, of course, affects this experience of mine as well. So full self-driving, not a thing. Can't do it. The car is fully ready to do it actually, and in some cases, if you do, for instance, the Smart Summit, it wants to actually engage that mode, but it immediately gets cut off if you wait for it. If you are more than 6 meters away, that's less than 20 feet away from your car, and then it just blocks and says, I can't do it. because it's regulated in our area. So none of the autonomous functions really function, so to speak, to their full extent. It's a bit of a joke. I hope that in the next year we get over it and then we can use these cars to their full extent. FSD and all these, they are based on the camera systems, and I found some of the capabilities to be weaker at night, and it does say some functionality may be degraded if you are driving in particularly low light conditions. So do keep that in mind. Most of these videos that you see are filmed during the day. At night, if you want to use enhanced autopilot or FSD, you may have different experiences. So that's something that they don't go about telling you, but it does sometimes say, hey, take over, because I can't do it in this dark environment. I was very pleasantly surprised with the amount of storage that you can put in it. Of course, Tesla measures their trunk space a little bit differently. They measure it up to the glass as compared to other manufacturers that talk about it to the cargo cover. But to be honest with you, if you are taking that much with you, then you'll probably put the cover away. And since it's foldable and it fits underneath in the sub-trunk, you might as well use the almost 600 liters of space that you have available. If you are not near a charger, or if you don't have the infrastructure to do it, or if you're traveling and you don't have anywhere to charge, you do have to sort of calculate with a bit of vampire drain. Now, if you leave Sentry on all night, considering I parked on the street with this car, I left Sentry running all night, and I lost around 15, 16 kilometers, so 10 miles, going from 9:30 p.m. until 8 a.m. the next morning, and around 3% battery. That's what it translates to. I did have a weird issue with the mirrors. They have a functionality where they automatically tilt. That's good, we know this. It's been around in cars for more than 2, maybe even 3 decades, but for some reason, the right-hand side mirror, and I checked the adjusted position as well, and I restarted everything that I could, would just tilt completely out to the point where I'm looking at the other lane if I'm parking. So I just switched that function off. I'm hoping that it's a software glitch and they just fix it in a post at some point. The Matrix LED lights are very good. Even the facelifted Model Ys had them, and they are now enabled, and they are finally enabled in the European Union as well. They're very good on this car. It's a little bit of a busy bee, and it keeps jumping a lot. Not as stable as some of the Volkswagen group or the Mercedes group, like Daimler vehicles that are out there. I found those to be much more stable and more confident, but it's a good start, and hopefully they can tweak it a little bit more. It all depends on the amount of pixels that your headlights have. So they can play with that, and Tesla is, if any company, the one to actually fix these later on in a software update. The unique thing about Teslas is that it has modes that now everybody tries to imitate and copy. Dog mode, camp mode, keeping the ventilation on. These are very, very welcome changes, and it comes from the platform that is fully electric, and it allows you to just use these accessories on a sort of lower consumption standby mode. Very welcome. I myself have a dog, and it's nice to be able to keep the dog in the car for quickly I run somewhere where I'm not allowed to take him in, and I'm able to monitor him on the app using the camera, and I can see that he's okay, and there's a displayed message making sure that nobody breaks the windows in. So yeah, good job on that one. Quality wise, this is a Berlin made car, and it's a little bit of a difference between the Shanghai built Model 3s that we get here in Europe and the Model Y. There are a few squeaks and rattles that I feel in this brand new car that had 1,000 miles on it when I got it this weekend. Some plastic elements keep resonating and vibrating, which is a little bit annoying, but I didn't experience any of that on the Model 3 Highland. So yeah, unfortunately we don't get them from Shanghai, but maybe Berlin keeps improving, and over the years, of course, if I think about the earlier models that came from there, there's improvement, but I hope that this continues to improve as well. There's a trick to get Disney Plus back if you don't know this, but I'm just gonna let you know. If you go to the browser, then you can type in Disney Plus, press login, and it immediately jumps into the app that is actually installed, but it just doesn't show in the menu. So it's not like they removed it. I thought they removed it, but actually if you go into the browser, you can still trigger it and it will be added back into the menu. So if you don't have it, now you know how to add it back. The ventilated front seats, although we don't have them in the back, but the front seats are cooled, and in this weather here, it's really a game changer. You don't need to blast the AC continuously in your face. There's cold air sort of lightly blowing on your back, which, let me tell you, when you're carrying camera gear and stuff, is a real blessing. There's still no way to sort of directly blow as much air as you can on the footwell. So if I put my dog in the car and we're just waiting somewhere, he usually sits or lays down in the footwell, and I can't direct the cold air onto him. which of course, especially for small animals, this is a crucial thing. If you're sitting in the back, you get to enjoy the panoramic sunroof, which is now actually factory tinted. And here in this particular version in Hungary, also the rear windows are tinted, which is good. And this is a factory option. You don't really get to choose whether you have it or not, but I know that the Model 3, when it came out, didn't have that option. So this is very nice because that would be the first thing that I would do, is to have the rear tinted. It's actually not legal here to tint the front at all, so it's nice because that saves you a lot of money and hassle as well, and it's factory, so I'm assuming that some form of warranty comes with it. The panoramic sunroof does actually now push through less heat, but as somebody who's bald, I can still feel it all day, especially on these hot summer days, but the rest of the year should be okay. And in return, the rear passengers get to enjoy whatever is above us, so good stuff. Speaking of the rear, the adjustable rear seats are very nice. They're electric, and you can actually lean back or sit a little bit more up front if you desire, but from the back, from the trunk, you can actually push a button and push the rear seats down, allowing you to get more cargo space or transport longer items that need a flat surface. The phone app experience, as I mentioned, is really great. It allows you to do many controls. You can unlock and unlock the car, open the trunk, and it's just the best out on the market. I don't think there's anything that I could say that should be improved. If anything, just keep it as good as it is, because the competition is yet to catch up. So Tesla is still leading this experience. It's awesome. Now I'll talk about my personal experience with this and what I feel about this car and in the situation here in my country, in Hungary, Central Eastern Europe. The situation is we have 10 superchargers. 2 of them are 125 kilowatts as well. The other 8 are scattered around the country. 2 of them are near the ringway around Budapest, so if you are sort of traveling through, they are great. There's one on the other side of Budapest, up north, and then the rest are scattered around the countryside, but there are major cities that don't have a supercharger anywhere near them. So, you know, you do have to calculate with some other platforms as well, some other suppliers, and their experience is, you know, it's completely different. You have to sign up to an app or get an RFID chip or pay directly there with a card. It's not as simple as just logging in. And there is a handshake, which other manufacturers, they know, but Tesla users, if you are used to just plugging in and it goes, and then it just charges your account. Unfortunately, here in Hungary, this is a little bit of a foreign experience to some people, because we have to rely on some other charging methods as well. Comparing this one to the long-range rear-wheel drive, I mean, if you look at the standard range, that's a different type of battery, and it's designed for a more sort of small usage, city usage, everyday car. But for long-range usage, you have 2 variants, the dual motor and the single motor rear wheel. And in reality, this one uses the front motor when you accelerate harshly, or when there's a traction issue, or it needs to recuperate a little bit, but that's like less than 2% of the time. So in reality, if you want something that is maximum range and really almost the same experience apart from the acceleration, or if you live in a harsh climate, of course, a question of stability, then the rear-wheel drive version is probably a better one. It just gives you more 620 kilometers, around 370 miles, which is a lot of range. And they get it out of this 75 kilowatt hour battery, the same battery. You just carry less weight, so it's a good option. That's probably what I would prefer to use. The service capacity here in Hungary is so bad that they needed to open a temporary service solution, which is actually not the real second store that they're going to open, but they just needed to open something ASAP because they were more than 90 days out for an appointment. Which, considering it's really hot right now, somebody recently posted in one of the Tesla groups that their AC is bust. And right now they can't use it until the end of September, at which point, you know, the hot season is over. So they're going to have a very sweaty summer. That's something you have to calculate with. Even though they are reliable, Tesla's paint is notoriously thin, and I've seen somebody actually drive less than 20 miles to an appointment to get their car wrapped from brand new, from taking delivery, and they had 3 chips already at the front, and they didn't even go on the highway. So if you get one, you probably should wrap it until you get to the appointment, at least until the driver's door from the front, because they are extremely thin, and yeah. Now he had to get it repaired first and then take it to back to another appointment for the wrap. So a ceramic wrap is probably most recommended. The Energy app that is available there on screen of the car is actually not available on the app. And in fact, compared to like something like my Toyota, where I can look back at every trip, here I need to subscribe to something like the Tessie app to actually monitor and track back my drives and how much electricity I've consumed, how much I charged, etc. I'm a little bit surprised. All this data is available, and there's an official API, so some companies, of course, developed apps for this, but I'm just surprised Tesla doesn't serve that information back. I'm not sure why that is, but the whole Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, for me is just not even an argument. You have the best apps already on the screen. You have Apple Podcasts, you have YouTube Music, so whatever you're using, the only functionality we're missing is really something like Waze, a community supported application for you to know about speed traps, about redirections, about closed roads, about events. I'm not sure why, with such a large community, Tesla doesn't have that functionality built in. I'm hoping that in the future they add this as well, because apart from this, there's really nothing else that I would want out of Apple CarPlay. And I think to sum up, I think we are very, very spoiled with cars like Tesla and even some of the competition. In reality, what sets apart Tesla from the competition is that this is a continuously evolving platform. Of course, competition is emerging from some of the German brands and some of the Chinese competitors, and of course there's the Kia Hyundai group as well from Korea, but really nobody is doing a few weeks apart different software updates. This is a continuously evolving platform, and 3-4 years into your experience, your ownership experience, you'll still get new functions. And I think that's what sets it apart. This is a smartphone on wheels effectively, and no other car manufacturer right now here in Europe gives you such a vibrant and lively experience. Mercedes-Benz is trying to catch up, and I'm hoping that at some point I get my hands on their new CLA, because rumors are that is actually a very good competitor for this segment. Depending on the pricing, it can of course take away some of the market share of Tesla, because the brand isn't very popular right now, and of course there are very loyal Mercedes-Benz owners. But apart from this, everybody else is trying, but after a few iterations, even the Volkswagen ID platform is just doing minor bug fixes, little improvements, but no new functionality. Nobody's using hardware and software hand in hand, similarly to how Apple does it. Tesla does it as well. There's very, very active teams that are working on just making your experience better and better, few steps ahead as you are driving your car on the street today. So I really liked it, and I'm very grateful to have this experience. I'm hoping that at one point maybe I'll get my hands on it in the winter, and then I can repeat the test. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And of course, you're more than welcome to join us and subscribe. I do videos about cars, drones, cameras, and the likes, as I'm trying to do my job as well. So check out some of my other videos, and thank you for watching.